Got him in his drive already. I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. Yeah. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s.
Well, you know,
I made incredible. I made the hooks. I made the melodies.
Yeah.
I made the shit, dog. I'm the man.
Max B and Jim Jones were once close like brothers, unshakable. But everything flipped the moment Jim walked away from that bond. That's when Max turned from his right-hand hitmaker into a storm he never saw coming. Rumors started flying. People whispered that Max had taken his girl, wrecked his ride, and stirred up major chaos in Harlem just to prove a point. Max wasn't out here playing games, and the streets felt it heavy. Charlie Wingate, better known as Max B, came up in Harlem, New York. The same uptown that's seen struggle, hustle, and dreams colliding every day. His story begins in the Abraham Lincoln housing projects, where survival wasn't just a choice, it was a lifestyle. Max B's journey was filled with challenges and lessons. His mother was caught in tough battles that kept her in and out of the system, leaving his grandmother to raise him. She was his rock, his protector, but even with her love, the streets were always calling. That call came early, long before he started writing the catchy hooks that would have the whole East Coast vibing. As a kid, Charlie found a spark in the boys' choir of Harlem. That's where the roots of his signature sound began. His voice carried emotion, grit, and a touch of soul that no one could fake. But music couldn't fully silence the noise around him. By 18, Max was already making choices that would shape his entire future, and not all of them were easy. In 1997, Max B hit a rough chapter. He got caught up in a robbery case and ended up serving around 8 years locked up. But that time away didn't crush him, it sharpened him. When he walked out in 2005, he wasn't the same man who went in. He came home with a fresh mindset, a new name, and a confidence that only comes from really living your lyrics. That's when the world met Max Bigavelli, a name he built from the greats: Biggie Smalls, Machiavelli, Tupac, and Jigga. Max saw himself as the ultimate blend: Biggie's flow, Tupac's passion, Jay-Z's confidence, and that streetwise wisdom that made him one of a kind. His sound wasn't just music. It was a vibe, a lifestyle, a whole movement. When Max stepped back into Harlem, the city was buzzing like never before. The Diplomats had the scene on lock. Cameron and Jim Jones were running the streets and shaping the sound of the city. Max reconnected with Cam, and through that link, he met Jim Jones.
Enough to get my room so I could ram his shit up, ram it up his ass. Right? My window was there, he tried to grab me. So when he came in the window, I punched him in the face.
Before long, he was signed to Jim's label, Bird Gang, and teamed up with the legendary Harlem producer, Dame Grease. Their chemistry was instant, the kind of energy that can't be forced. Then came 2006, and Max dropped his first mixtape, $1 Million Baby. The reaction, straight chaos, in the best way. The streets couldn't get enough. His voice, his attitude, his unfiltered emotion, it hit people like lightning in a bottle. With another rising star, Stack Bundles, also in the Bird Gang camp, Jim Jones was sitting on something special. Max quickly became the secret ingredient behind Jim's biggest records, laying down hooks and verses that gave every track a whole new level of heat. Songs like Baby Girl became street anthems, and everything Max touched turned into gold. No matter how high the music took him, Max could never stay away from the streets for long. In September 2006, everything took a wild turn that would change his life forever. Word reached Max through his ex, Gina Conway, about a man named Alan J. Plowden, a flashy player known for his luxury cars, stacks of cash, and risky business moves tied to mortgage and mail scams. Gina spilled all the details, and temptation started brewing. According to her, Max talked about making a quick move that could set everyone up nicely. She claimed he hinted at a way to get a little come up, something that sounded easy but would end up spiraling way out of control. What actually happened that night is still debated, but the outcome, it was bad news all around. Max himself wasn't on the scene when things went sideways, but prosecutors painted him as the one who set the plan in motion. Gina, who was juggling side hustles and club work at the time, testified that Max sent her and his stepbrother, Kelvin Killa Sims, to confront Plowden at a hotel in New Jersey. The supposed plan was simple: wait until Plowden went out for the night, sneak in, and grab whatever cash they could find. But from the start, the whole thing was messy and unorganized. Reports say Gina and Sims got lost for hours, missed exits, and wasted valuable time. By the time they finally made it to the hotel, Plowden had already returned. Not just that, he wasn't alone. Another man, David Taylor, suddenly walked in and wasn't supposed to be there. That's when everything spiraled out of control. Sims panicked, and what was supposed to be a quick grab turned into a complete disaster that no one could take back.
So Jim Jones, compare the names. Look, Max Bigavel, Jim Jones. That don't even add up. That's not on my level, man.
Gina Conway was the first piece of the puzzle to crumble. Once she got caught, she wasted no time flipping the script to save herself. She handed over a massive 169-page statement, laying out every detail and putting Max right in the middle of it all. According to her, Max was the one who started the whole plan. She claimed he promised her everything: money, loyalty, and a forever kind of bond if she helped him out. When the authorities came for Max, they didn't hold back. It was intense. He was hit with major charges that could change his life forever. His bail, a jaw-dropping $2 million. While Max sat in that cold cell, time seemed to freeze for him. But outside those walls, the world kept moving fast. Jim Jones, the very man who had signed Max and helped him rise musically, was suddenly all over the place. Jim dropped We Fly High, Ballin', and it exploded instantly. The track became a full-blown anthem. Clubs, radios, and streets couldn't get enough. It was the biggest hit of Jim's entire career, but Max wasn't celebrating. From behind bars, he claimed that he was the real pen behind the hit, saying he ghost-wrote We Fly High and even some of Jim's other bangers. That's when tension started to build and things got messy. While Jim was living large, doing interviews and stacking checks, Max was stuck fighting for his freedom and for his name. After 10 long months, his bail finally dropped to $90,000, giving him a small shot at getting out. But when it came time for help, Jim's move didn't look like friendship. Reports say he allegedly used that bail money as leverage instead of loyalty. Jim finally agreed to help Max get out, but there was a catch. He'd only put up the bail money if Max signed over all his publishing and locked himself into 6 albums under Jim's name. Trapped behind bars with limited options, Max didn't have much choice. Desperate for freedom, he signed the deal, giving Jim full control of the wavy sound that Max had created from the ground up. In July 2007, Max B walked out of jail a free man, but not the same man who went in. He was colder, sharper, and filled with resentment. He came home broke, betrayed, and bound by a contract that stripped him of his future earnings. Meanwhile, Jim Jones, the man he once called brother, was thriving off the very wave Max had started. As Max sat back watching, the streets kept chanting his name through mixtapes and street DVDs. Wavy had become more than a word. It was culture. And the more people shouted it, the more Max realized he couldn't stay silent any longer. If Jim wasn't going to give him his shine, then Max was going to take it for himself. The betrayal cut deep. It wasn't just about business anymore, it was personal.
Your name is Max B, aka Max Bigavel. We know Bigavel stands for Big Jig and Pac, right? But where did the
Big
name...
Jig and Machiavelli, baby.
Yeah.
Big Jig and Machiavelli.
Max felt completely played. The deal meant Jim owned every piece of his creative work, every hook, every melody, every unforgettable line that made the records pop. And while Jim was collecting checks, Max was left feeling like his entire legacy had been taken from him. With his heart frozen by betrayal, Max decided he was done playing nice. He walked away from Bird Gang with one clear mission. If Jim Jones wasn't going to give him what he earned, then Max was going to expose everything in public, and he wasn't holding back on anything. It didn't take long before Max found the perfect ally. French Montana. Back then, French wasn't the chart-topping star everyone knows today. He was a gritty hustler from the Bronx, running his underground Coast City DVD series, capturing raw street life and giving a voice to the overlooked. French already had his own tension with Jim, coming from a past street situation where rumors said Jim had spoken badly about him. So when Max and French connected, it wasn't just business, it was personal. Together, they built something wild, a movement they called Co-Wave. This wasn't just a crew, it was a full-blown takeover of the mixtape scene. Their chemistry was undeniable, their confidence unmatched, and their energy spread through the streets like wildfire. Max had already realized that the music industry wasn't built to save him. He had no label support, no publishing rights, and no major cosign behind him. But what he did have was powerful. A voice that the streets respected, a vibe that couldn't be duplicated, and a natural talent for turning pain into music. When Max B felt cornered, he did what real hustlers do. He took it underground. He started releasing his music for free, giving the people what the industry was trying to bury. But these weren't just songs. They were verbal shots, direct hits aimed at Jim Jones and his whole camp. Max was done holding his tongue, and everyone could feel the energy shift. His first major strike came through a mixtape called Public Domain 3. The cover alone told the story. Max posing in a graveyard surrounded by tombstones with names like Millie, Jim Jones, and Vanilli Joel Santana carved into them. He was calling them out, comparing them to Milli Vanilli, the duo famous for faking their way through music. In Max's eyes, Jim and Jules were doing the same, trying to ride the wavy sound that he created. Max didn't just talk. He mocked them through his tracks with bold titles like Lip Sync Rappin' and I Know Them Dudes Need Me. Every line was a shot, every verse a reminder that he was the one who brought the sound the people loved. But Max wasn't stopping at music. He took it way deeper, coming after reputations and egos. One of the wildest moments in the feud came when he dropped the controversial track, She Touched It in Miami. On the record, he made bold claims about Jim Jones's longtime girlfriend, Chrissy Lampkin, hinting at a scandal between them. He painted the picture with reckless confidence, laughing through his lyrics and flipping the situation into pure street gossip. The track shook Harlem to its core. People couldn't believe what they were hearing, and the streets ate it up. It wasn't just music anymore. It was public humiliation turned into entertainment, and Max was right in the center of it, smiling through the chaos. Jim Jones was completely caught off guard. He didn't see any of it coming. The moment Max started firing shots, Jim tried to brush it all off. He denied every claim, tried to play it cool, and even attempted to minimize Max's impact by saying he was just another rapper who never made it big. Jim swore up and down that Max had nothing to do with We Fly High, his biggest hit. But the streets, they weren't buying a single word of it. People had already heard the reference tracks where Max's voice was all over the hooks, and fans started asking real questions about Jim's role in Dipset's success.
Boyfriend Charlie Wingate, aka Max B, a rapper, about the men's money. Then Wingate reaches out to this man, Calvin Leardom. It all began the morning of September 22nd at the Fort Lee Holiday Inn. Police are called there after a man is shot to death. The victim, David Taylor from Florida, was staying in room 227.
Max moved like a man on a mission. And this wasn't just talk. He was out to make a point. According to Max, things got physical at one point. He claimed that Jim tried to pull up on him in a parking lot, blocking his car in an attempted ambush. But Max said he saw it coming, hit the gas, bumped Jim's Bentley out of the way, and even got a few hits in before speeding off. It sounded wild, but Max was out here showing off the dents on his car like battle trophies. People close to Max, including French Montana, backed his story, adding fuel to the legend. Soon, the story spread everywhere, and the myth of Max B grew even stronger. Then came November 2008, when Max and French decided to confront Jim face to face. They rolled deep into Manhattan and walked straight into the studio building where Jim was recording. The message was clear, the tension was real, and the city wasn't safe for back and forth talk anymore. Max later claimed that Jim saw the situation unfolding and called the cops, which only made the feud even messier. Not long after, their camps ran into each other at a Brooklyn club, and things exploded. Reports said the confrontation turned into a wild scene with chaos breaking out and security flooding in to shut it down. It looked like something straight out of a movie, but it was real life, and the drama between Max B and Jim had officially gone too far. Max B had turned into a full-blown cult hero, the kind of artist who didn't need a record label or industry cosign to prove his worth. Even while tied up in contracts that left him empty-handed, he found a way to make himself a legend. His music flooded the streets, mixtapes, and car stereos everywhere. And to this day, people still blast those tracks with pride. But while his feud with Jim Jones kept spreading through the streets like wildfire, another storm was brewing, one that could change everything. Max was now facing the biggest fight of his life, a criminal trial that threatened to silence his wave forever. On June 9th, 2009, Max B walked into the Bergen County Courthouse like a man who still believed in his own story. Cameras were flashing, supporters were cheering, and he moved with that same unshakable swagger that made people love him in the first place. His legal team came in confident too. They told the world they had ripped apart the prosecution's star witness during cross-examination. That witness was Gina Conway, the same woman who had once been close to Max, but later turned herself in and testified against him and his stepbrother, Kelvin "Killa" Sims, hoping for a lighter sentence. Max's lawyer painted Gina as someone bitter and vengeful, someone twisting the truth to save herself. But courtrooms don't play by street rules, and confidence alone can't win a case. When the jury finally returned with a verdict, everything Max believed about loyalty and the game came crashing down. The decision hit hard. Max was found guilty on 9 out of 11 counts, including conspiracy, aggravated assault, and robbery-related charges. The moment was heavy, the kind that can freeze an entire room. Prosecutors built their whole case around the idea that Max was the mastermind behind the setup.
Got him in his drive already. I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s.
Well, you know,
I made incredible. I made the hooks. I made the melodies.
Yeah.
I made the shit, dog. I'm the man.
Even though he wasn't on the scene that night, they claimed he was the one who pushed Gina and Kelvin to pull it off while he sat back expecting to collect the reward. Gina Conway had made a deal with the system, a move that would change everything. Her original serious charges were reduced to armed robbery and manslaughter after she agreed to cooperate, earning her a recommended 18-year sentence in exchange for her testimony. Max's defense team fought tooth and nail, arguing that Gina had twisted the truth just to save herself. In a surprising twist, Gina even testified that Max didn't know about the plan at all, claiming she had used his name to convince her boyfriend Kelvin to go through with it. The defense pushed that point hard, saying Gina only dragged Max into the mix later out of heartbreak and self-interest, trying to paint him as the mastermind in exchange for a lighter sentence. But despite their effort, the jury wasn't convinced. On September 3rd, 2009, Max B was sentenced to 75 years in prison, with the possibility of parole in 2042. Just like that, the man who had Harlem buzzing was gone. From street icon to inmate overnight, the wave didn't stop, but it hurt to see it crash that way. While fans in the streets mourned the loss of one of their favorite voices, Jim Jones seemed to be moving differently, like he had just played a power move. From a business point of view, Jones looked at it like a checkmate. Max was behind bars, his voice silenced, and Jim still held control of all the publishing rights tied to Max's music. Every hook, every melody, every catchy line that came from Max's creative genius still brought money to Jim's pockets, and Jim didn't stop there. He started mocking Max publicly, taking jabs at him whenever he could. He'd call him goofy nicknames, dismiss his influence, and in interviews, he'd brush off the topic entirely, saying Max was old news, a forgotten name from a past era. He tried to make it look like Max had never really mattered, like he was just another artist that came and went. Even from behind bars, Max B refused to fade away. The streets still had deep love for him, and his name carried too much power to be forgotten. Max kept his presence alive by staying connected, writing letters, trading ideas, and collaborating with French Montana, DJs, and indie labels. He might have been locked up, but his voice never went silent. Then, in May 2010, everything changed. A major legal victory flipped the entire situation. A judge officially ruled that Jim Jones no longer had any control over Max B's music career. It was a huge moment, the kind that had fans celebrating across the map. The judge found that Max had already completed the obligations from both contracts he'd signed with Jim back in 2005 and 2007.
Originally, you were sentenced to 75 years. But then last July, you said you got reduced to 20 years and then to 12 years.
In simple terms, Max was free. Free from the paper chains that had tied his art and money to someone else's name. He was still behind bars, but now his creativity belonged to him again. That same freedom allowed Max to finally release his long-awaited album, Vigilante Season, in 2011. And when it dropped, the streets went wild. The sound was pure Max, melodic, gritty, and effortlessly smooth. It was proof that his wavy flow had changed hip-hop forever. Even with him gone, his influence was everywhere. You could hear bits of Max in the way artists delivered their hooks, rode their beats, and talked about vibes and freedom. For a while, that was the legacy. Max behind bars, but his waves still alive. Then came a twist that nobody saw coming. In 2016, after serving 7 years, Max's new legal team came forward with a game-changing argument. They filed what's known as a post-conviction relief motion, basically a legal strategy used to challenge a sentence after it's already been given. Their claim that Max's original lawyer had failed him completely. They said instead of focusing on building a strong defense, his old attorney was more interested in the fame and potential money that could come from being tied to Max's career if he won the case. It was a bold move, and against all odds, it worked. Then came the moment nobody thought would ever happen. The judge vacated Max B's original 75-year sentence. It was a jaw-dropping turn in a story that had once looked hopeless. As part of a new plea deal, Max pled guilty to aggravated manslaughter, and that decision completely changed his future. The deal cut 55 years off his time, dropping it down to 20 years, and later reducing it again to 12. Since Max had already spent years behind bars by then, the countdown to freedom was finally real. For the first time in forever, Max could see a finish line. His official release date was set for November 9th, 2025, and fans everywhere started buzzing. The wave was finally coming home. Max B wasn't dying in prison after all. He was getting another shot at life, music, and legacy. By this point, Max wasn't just a rapper. He had become a myth, a living legend whose sound influenced a whole generation. His melodic style, his laid-back delivery, that signature wavy energy, it was everywhere. You could hear his fingerprints in underground freestyles, in radio hits, and even in stadium anthems. Kanye West tried to name his 2016 album Waves, but when the Wave community called him out, Kanye had to show respect and publicly acknowledge Max as the true originator. He even featured Max's voice on a track, a huge nod to the man who birthed the movement. Drake and Wiz Khalifa both openly said they drew inspiration from Max's music and style. And even Jim Jones, during one rare, honest moment, admitted what fans had known all along, that if Max B hadn't been locked up, he could have been bigger than Drake. One big question still hangs in the air. Are Max B and Jim Jones still enemies, or has time finally cooled the fire? The streets have been wondering, and the energy around it feels tense but curious. From behind bars, Max has spoken with a completely different tone. He said he's changed, he's now a husband, a father of 4, and a man who's traded anger for peace. The fiery rage that once fueled every verse seems to have been replaced with reflection and growth. He even hinted that he might be ready to bury the hatchet one day, showing that maybe, just maybe, he's ready to let go of the past. But Jim, he's not quite there yet. In 2023, Jim and French Montana surprised everyone by rekindling their friendship and even making new music together. A full circle moment that no one saw coming. Still, when it comes to Max, Jim made it clear the situation's complicated. And he said he doesn't wish Max bad energy, but he's not interested in pretending everything's cool either. The story of Max B and Jim Jones is one of loyalty, betrayal, and legacy. And it's still unfolding. As Max's release approaches, the world's watching to see what happens next. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because you don't want to miss what goes down in our hood next.